Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. It's week 7 of the Tailgate Committee. I'm Andy Hopper, joined by Tom Scavetta and Noah Deibler. We are here. It's your new favorite college football game day show. Check us out live on YouTube Thursdays at noon Eastern, youtube.com/the Tailgate Committee. We are also on social media, Twitter and Facebook at the Tailgate Committee. I guess on Twitter, we are at the Tailgate.com, Facebook, Instagram, at the Tailgate Committee. Please give us a follow, like this video, subscribe on YouTube. That helps us out a lot. So let's jump right in. Our week 6 recap. I cannot believe it's already week 7, guys, but we had some fun games in week 6. I want to start with Miami and FSU, a big one in the ACC. Miami really looking like one of the top teams in the country. The Malachi Toney effect is unreal. 17 years old. Him and Carson Beck have a great connection as well. Carson Beck looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the country to this point. Tom, I know you're a Carson Beck guy. We'll start with you. What were your thoughts on this game? I know FSU kind of came back a little bit at the end, but I don't really feel like the final score was indicative of how much Miami really dominated the game.
Yeah, I'll hit on that. First off, I'm a Carson Beck fan thanks to the old boy down there, down south. He's the original Carson Beck fan. So I want to give him a shout out for that. But, yeah, Miami controlled this game. Now, one stat again, maybe a yellow flag, not a red flag. The Noles outscored them 19-0 in the fourth quarter. I know Miami kind of just played back a little bit, some prevent defense, deep zone. But all in all, you talk about that Beck and Toney connection. Carson Beck right now is my number 2 for the Heisman behind Julian Sayin. I mean, I just think he's been that good right now. I'd love to put him at 1, but obviously Ohio State is number 1 in the country, and Sayin has been outstanding. But 4 touchdown passes in this game against the Florida State defense that has shined at times this season. They looked really good in week 1 against Alabama. Malachi Toney, yeah, you mentioned, I mean, this freshman is so outstanding. 2 touchdown catches on the game. And I think what makes him so good so soon in his collegiate career is to learn from an older receiver like a CJ Daniels, a guy that he could almost view as a big brother in a sense. And Daniels had a good game as well, 2 touchdown receptions. And I just love their defense. They made Tommy Castellanos look very confused back there. And Castellanos, in my opinion, is a serviceable starting quarterback. He's not this elite talent, but he gets the job done. He doesn't make many mistakes. Now, he made some mistakes in this game. Not ideal. That 1 interception, not great. And he threw a lot of incomplete passes. He had barely over a 50% completion percentage, and that's shout out to the Canes defense. I'm talking about Bryce Fitzgerald and Jacoby Thomas. Those 2 specifically had key takeaways in this game that led to this Miami victory. Yeah, 6-point edge in the final score. It isn't indicative at all. But one thing that I do think, and the reason why I'm throwing the yellow flag for Miami just a little bit, 13 penalties for 114 yards. You're not going to beat a Georgia or an Ohio State or, an Oregon when you commit that many penalties. So that definitely has to be cleaned up heading into next week and moving forward.
Noah, let's kick it down to you on this one. Miami with the win over FSU, the OG Carson Beck enjoyer on the show. What do you think about this one and the Hurricanes? You're now number 2 team in the country after that win. Muted.
Great start. Great start.
Hot start for the old boy.
Yeah. Overall, I think it was a good performance. Like Tom said, they did let the pedal off the gas in the fourth quarter. I will say this if you're a Florida State fan, I don't think you should be embarrassed by this result. I think you should be happy that they tried to fight back because last year, guys, that team would have just laid down and died and lost by like 40 points. They did at least, make it respectable down the stretch. But this result was never really in doubt. Carson Beck looks awesome. I mean, there's just no other way to say it. 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Only 7 incompletions throughout the game. That 1-2 punch they had with Tony and Daniels looks awesome. And this was a game where they couldn't even run the ball as well, so they needed to be able to rely on this passing game, and it came through for them as well. On defense as well, excuse me, the pass rush, 2 sacks, 5 TFLs. When you have a mobile quarterback like Castellanos, he only averaged 3.6 yards per carry in that game. And with how mobile he can be, how much of a, I mean, you saw what he did against Alabama in the first game of the season, right? He absolutely torched him with his legs. So if you can hold him to something like that, you'll absolutely take that every day of the week. And like Tom said, barely above 50% completion percentage as well. Overall, I just think a workman performance for them. I do have some concerns, like Tom said. He already mentioned the penalties. Another thing is I want to see what Miami can do in more close games. They haven't really had a close game since the Notre Dame win. They've had a lot of blowout wins, or this one where they up convincingly and it only looks close because they just uh, took the foot off the gas completely in the fourth quarter. But we've seen as early as last year, guys. When Mario Cristobal gets into close games, he can make mistakes such as not nailing out the ball against Georgia Tech. But I'm looking at their schedule and the rest of the way they do play Louisville this week. I think that's going to be no, it's not a gimme game by any means. I know Louisville lost, but it went to overtime. They're still a pretty solid team. I think they're 4-1 right now at SMU. But I mean, for the most part, guys, I think they've gotten over their 2 biggest tests, which are Notre Dame and the rivalry game on the road at Doak Campbell. And they won both those games. So I think they're looking in great position, especially to win the ACC. I think unless they absolutely choke, which I mean, with Cristobal is not impossible, but just on paper, they look primed and ready, guys. Not only win the ACC, lock up a top spot in the CFP as well.
Yeah, absolutely. They definitely look like they are deserving of that number 2 ranking to this point. I will say I want to shout out CJ Daniels as well. Scored a couple touchdowns and was letting right up to the camera and immediately hit the love the disrespectful and the troll on that one from Daniels. We'll move on to the SEC. Bama and Vandy. This was a very hyped up game. Diego Pavia was talking shit, didn't seem to be very scared, and he had a couple back-breaking turnovers and did not look like his best self at points of this game. Tuscaloosa, obviously a very, very tough place to play. Bama ends up winning the game. Vandy was right there for, I would say, 3/4, pretty well into the fourth quarter. They were right there, but Bama ends up pulling it away, and that was a blocked punt for a touchdown or whatever at the end, or there was some touchdown, back-breaking touchdown they scored to cover the spread. Was just the start of an awful Saturday for me. Noah, I'll start with you on this one. What did you think about Bama getting the win over the Doors at home?
I think this was a good game. I think if you just look at the 30-14, you think it was a blowout, but I don't think that's the type of game it was. I think, like you said, Andy, it really came down to timely plays. Diego Pavi with the 2 turnovers. The first interception was in the Alabama red zone. They were up 17-0. They were driving. They could have gone up 14-0. He throws an interception. That's a big momentum shifter. And then the fumble was in the fourth quarter. They were down 20-14. They got down to, I believe, the Alabama 13 or when he fumbled, and I think it was Keon Sad that recovered. I mean, just timely plays. And when we discussed this game last week, my thing was I think Vanderbilt is a very good team, but in those crunch time moments, it's the talent that really takes over, and I think that's what we saw in this game. Alabama just making the crucial plays at key times. Vanderbilt had a failed fourth down conversion in the fourth quarter as well. They couldn't really do much defensively either. Alabama almost had 500 yards of offense in this game. They're 7-15 on third down, 2 for 3 on fourth down as well. Just I don't think as a Vanderbilt fan they should be ashamed by any means. I think the score is a little misleading, but then again, 16-0 in the second half. That's what teams like Alabama can do. That a team like Vanderbilt, they're not quite at that level, at least not yet. And what did I say last week? I thought the only way Vanderbilt wins this game is if they got what they got last year, which is Diego Pavia absolutely going off. And he did not absolutely go off in this game. I don't think he was terrible, but I mean, less than 200 yards, the 2 turnovers already mentioned, only 58 yards rushing. I mean, if you're playing Vanderbilt as the opposing DC, you'll take that stat line for him any day of the week, right? And then again, Ty Simpson. Ever since that FSU loss, guys, he has just been firing on all cylinders. 340 yards in this game, 2 touchdowns. Did have an interception, but for the most part, very accurate. Jam Miller is just, I mean, he had an insane game in this one. 136 and a touchdown. Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard, great 1-2 punch there. Just a workman's performance, I think. Just the second half. It's just a classic example, guys, of experienced team versus a much less experienced team. Also in Alabama as well. That's just not an easy place to play. So I don't think it was a 16-point game necessarily, but I do think the better team that I always felt was going to win the game did win it in the end.
Right. I mean, not a shocking result here that Bama won the game. They were favored by multiple scores. You tip your cap to Vanderbilt because they're so close. But I think you said it. They're not built to come from behind against a team like Alabama with all that talent. Tom, what did you make of this one last week?
Other than Vanderbilt's offense in the second half, took a page out of Georgia's offense from 2 weeks ago. Look, man, I quickly want to shout out that Commodores defense. They had 4 sacks in this game. They stuck around. Years past, that Vanderbilt defense would have folded. Some will argue that Diego Pavia is the best Vanderbilt quarterback since Jay Cutler. There are arguments being made. And quickly here, that fan post-game heckling him as he was walking back. I mean, do you have anything better to do with your life than that? In all honesty, what a shame. This is an SEC game. Yeah, Pavia didn't play great, but he didn't play bad either. He had over 250 total yards of offense against a good Bama defense, in my opinion. His one interception, that was just the ball that Keon Sabb took away. I mean, it's not like Pavia is a garbage quarterback. I mean, again, he's a smaller quarterback playing in the SEC. I think what he's been able to do, not just these past 2 years at Vanderbilt, but even dating back to New Mexico State, has been quite impressive. And I really hope that Bama fan, thinks differently about things moving forward, and hopefully he got some sort of discipline, because that is just flat out disrespectful. Shout out to Diego's teammates for sticking up for him there as they were walking back to the locker room, and it makes me want to root against Alabama just a little bit more.
Yeah, it's always it's one thing if it's a college kid, but this was like a full-grown, like 50-year-old dude with a beer in hand, jawing at Pavia. So yeah, you never like to see that, but Tide come out with the victory there. We'll go back to the ACC, and this was a fun one, an overtime victory. Virginia gets it done again. They take out Louisville this time in overtime. Tom, I'll go back over to you. What did you make of the Hoos and going 2 straight big wins in the ACC?
Shout out to me, myself, and I for being the only one to roll with Virginia on this game last week. I just want to point that out. Yeah, I'm guns a-blazing tonight to start the show, fellas. Second straight overtime win for Virginia. They are 3-0 in the ACC, quietly 3-0, and you got to start to talk about them a little bit more, right? Stacking up, but like against teams like a Georgia Tech or a Miami, you have to throw them in the mix. I mean, Clemson's not winning the ACC. Florida State's not winning the ACC. Virginia might be that third team right now that's like, hey, they have a shot. I mean, they're ranked. They have a shot to make an ACC championship game appearance this year if they keep this up, which is I know that sounds crazy. We're only in week 7. There's a lot of time. But with the way they've played defensively, Cam Robinson with that 47-yard pick six. The defense had 5 sacks off of Miller Moss. We thought this would be a get-right game for Louisville. And it's not like Virginia's defense had the cleanest game. I mean, Chris Bell got his got his bread, 12 catches, 170 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He right now is looking like a top 5 receiver in next year's draft. But the turnovers, this is just fundamental football. Louisville, 2 turnovers. Virginia, 0. That should tell you something right there. Their defense is here to play. They knew what the game plan was. They tried to limit Bell. They didn't succeed there, but what they did instead was they stopped the run, and they got in the face of Miller Moss. They got him under pressure, under duress, and they made some big key adjustments in that second half that helped them get victorious. So shout out to Virginia doing it 2 weeks in a row in overtime. That is not easy to do.
Yep, we'll give you your flowers on that one, Tom. Noah and I thought there might be a little bit of a hangover after that big win, and there was not for the Cavaliers. They looked good. Chandler Morris, another big win, and they're 3-0 in the ACC. But if you look at they've got to keep up with Miami. FSU now has a loss. Clemson has 2 losses. So I don't know if Duke has lost a conference game yet, but like they are firmly in the mix for an ACC championship appearance. Just keep winning games. Noah, we'll go down to you for this one quickly. What did you think about the victory for Virginia? Does it say more about the Cavaliers? Are they legit? Or does it say more about Louisville for you?
I'd say probably more Virginia. I think both of these teams are solid. I don't think, Louisville choked or anything. I think it was a very good game, like Tom said, went to overtime. Virginia barely gets it done. But I mean, Louisville does have it tough. They're probably they're definitely, I think, going to lose again this week. But, other than that, I think they've done a respectable job so far this season. I think Miller Moss had a decent game, almost completed 75%, 329 yards. Chris Bell, like Tom mentioned, went off. But I will say for Virginia, they look in very dark horse contention right here because if you look at their schedule, guys, they lost to NC State, but because that was scheduled as a non-conference game, like Tom said, they're still 3-0 in the ACC. And if you look at the rest of their schedule, guys, in conference, yeah, I think it looks very favorable. So they play Washington State out of conference, but then they have at North Carolina, which let's be honest, that's basically a bye week. At California, not an easy opponent by any means. They're 4-2 this season. Versus Wake Forest, you'd expect them to win that. At Duke, I think is probably their toughest game left. Duke is also 3-0 in the ACC. They did, get blown out against a team like Illinois, but overall, still definitely one of the stronger teams in the ACC. And then they closed the season at home against Virginia Tech, who we've already talked about, fired their coach. They're 2-4. So that's a game you'd probably expect them to win as well, but it is a rivalry game. So I think it's very possible, guys, that Virginia could go 10-2. Now, whether or not that's enough to make the CFP, I think that depends on whether or not they make the ACC championship game. But looking at the standings right now, besides Miami, I think teams like Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech, or excuse me, Virginia, Georgia Tech, and probably Duke, I'd say, are kind of those dark horse teams to make the ACC championship game. Now, I don't think any of them would win it, but there is an opportunity there for sure. So I was impressed with this win. I did not expect them to. I thought there would maybe be a bit of a hangover after that massive FSU win, but no, they got it done. In another tight game as well. Credit to them. I do think they have an opportunity the rest of the season for sure.
Absolutely. Things setting up nicely for Virginia. We got to talk about this next one because it might be the most shocking result of the year. UCLA takes down Penn State, knocks the Nittany Lions out of the top 25. UCLA, Penn State just got outcoached and they got beat by a team with no coaches. They're on the interim staff. The Neuheisel kid, it's his first time ever calling plays. He said they installed that offense in 2 days. UCLA had 2 days to implement their game plan. He had never called plays before, didn't know how to use the headset, and he fucking ran circles around James Franklin. James Franklin did not know what to do in this game. They clearly don't trust Drew Aller. You have a fourth down that you absolutely have to get, and you don't trust him to. It was like 4th and 2, by the way, 4th and 3. You don't trust him to drop back and hit an open receiver. And I get it. If it's short yardage, you can justify it being a run play. But man, I hate leaving it up to somebody's legs in that kind of situation. He's bad. The defense got worked. You paid Jim Knowles $3 million to come be the defensive coordinator from Ohio State. And they gave up 5 straight touchdowns on UCLA's first 5 drives. They gave up a touchdown. This is an 0-4 team with a staff of interim coaches. Like I said, they implemented this game plan in 2 days, and that was good enough to just make Penn State look like a nobody. They've yet to beat a Power 4 team. They stink. You go and you look at their schedule, what's their best win? I don't think they have a win that qualifies as a best win. James Franklin is terrible. They can't fire him because he's got a $50 million buyout. So you're stuck in just mediocrity in Happy Valley. He is the definition of very good, not great. They've had some really good years at Penn State, but he cannot win the big game. He can't win the small games either. You can complain about the travel and all this shit. We had to go multiple time zones away. I don't want to hear it. You're a top 10 program. People thought so highly of you before the season that you were preseason number 2. Now you're 3-2. And I really don't think there's a way that they go any better than 9-3 in the regular season. They're not going to beat Ohio State. I think Indiana can beat them. There's 8-4. Then what do you do if you're Penn State? Do you pay the $50 million and pony up and get Franklin out of town? Does he decide, hey, I'll just go somewhere else? Like, is he an attractive hire does he go to the NFL, be a coordinator? Like, who the fuck is going to hire him? You might as well have fucking Keegan-Michael Key out there on the sidelines dressed up like Franklin, because he's going to do just as much as James Franklin will do on the sideline. But, oh my God, we are, ladies and gentlemen, we are trash is what you should be saying if you're a Penn State fan. No, I'll start with you on this one. How the hell do you lose this game if you're Penn State? Like, it's inexcusable. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. I didn't expect to go off on a rant like that either, by the way.
Well, it's gonna be hard to follow that up, but I will start with this. First of all, I do think this is important to say this as well. Credit to UCLA. They've had a disastrous season, and like you said, New Heisel had to put in a scheme in basically 2 days. And Nico, who's gotten a lot of shit, rightly so this season, had the game of his life. He almost had 300 yards. He had 5 total touchdowns, 3 on the ground. The fact they were able to do that is absolutely amazing, and I do think they should be commended for that. However, you guys know, like, that meme of the guy holding the sign up and it says, "Our expectations for you were low."
Yeah.
But that's what I felt with this game, man. Like, it's one thing, with James Franklin, and this is why I said in preseason when we were talking about overhyped teams, this was the first team that immediately came to my mind. How the hell they were ranked number 2 above Ohio State, I still have no clue. But, the thing with James Franklin, right, is he loses the big games. This isn't a big game. It was on the road, sure, but I mean, 0-4 UCLA fired Deshaun Foster, has been a total, disaster for them so far. Where's the defense? I mean, my God, like Andy said, they just got absolutely shredded in this game. There was basically no resistance whatsoever. They were down, get this guys, 27-7 at halftime against an 0-4 team. That's just been a total dumpster fire so far. They just went out and took them to the woodshed in the first half. Dare I say they were boat racing them in that first half, man. It wasn't even competitive. Drew Aller, I mean, what are you going to say? I mean, I don't think he was absolutely awful, but like Andy said, clearly James Franco does not trust him to make the big plays and the big moments. And if you have a coach that doubts your quarterback like that, that's not a good sign whatsoever. I mean, look at what Ohio State is doing, right? Tom mentioned Julian Sayin earlier. He comes in and, first year as a full-time starter, he is clinical. He has 25 incompletions this season, and the Ohio State defense is only giving up 25 points. I mean, that is just absolutely remarkable stat. That's a recipe for success. That's what a contending team looks like. Not this absolute joke to where you go out, you have to try and stage some heroic comeback against poor 0-4 UCLA, and you can't even get it done, man. You still lose. And looking at the rest of their schedule, guys, I mean, my God, they have. You know what? I'm not even certain they'll beat at Iowa. Iowa's defense is legit, guys. I mean, if this freaking and with the way the Penn State defense is playing, they might give up 24 points to Iowa, which is basically the equivalent of a 50 piece against any decent team. Um, they're going to get killed by Ohio State. It's at Ohio State as well versus Indiana. Hell, are we even certain they could convincingly beat Nebraska at this point? I mean, if you lose to UCLA, you can't look at any game on the rest of your schedule and think that's a gimme win. And you know what, Tom, before I throw it to you, I just want to give you one last nugget. Maybe James Franklin should spend less time yapping in press conferences and get back to working on his playbook and the X's and O's.
Yeah, not a bad call there. No,
Oh, boy.
Jesus
Oh,
Christ.
boy.
The old boy. Tom, what do you think? Well, how much of a disaster is Penn State? Yeah, just give me your thoughts on this game.
Oh, yeah. My thoughts, I'll give you a lot. First off, UCLA leads 27-7 at halftime. Katron Allen, they give him 8 fucking carries in this game. 8. And he had 50 yards on those carries. So he averaged over 60 yards a clip. Nick Singleton, oh boy, we have the best running back duo in the nation. 11 rushes for 39 yards. How do you like them apples? Nico Iamaleava, good game. 3 rushing touchdowns on the ground, 2 touchdown passes. But how the fuck do you let Nico Iamaleava score 5 combined touchdowns? This is an 0-4 team. The Bruins ran for 280 yards. The Nittany Lions got outgained 446 to 357. And not only that, the Bruins held the ball for over 39 minutes in this game. 39 minutes. James Franklin could not adjust to an interim coaching staff, a kid who had never called plays in his life. This is absolutely atrocious, and this is hysterical, okay? You don't want us to eat lunch, James Franklin? Well, I don't know how that's going to work out for you long term, okay? Every fucking week, I just sit there and I listen to this guy talk, and he is one of the worst talking heads I have ever seen. You know, he belittled Marcus Freeman last year for not joining a conference. Oh, yeah, by the way, our loss to NIU looks pretty good now, James. Pretty good compared to who you just lost to, okay? At least they finished with a better record last year than what UCLA will probably finish with this year. And back to a serious note, how poorly prepared this team was. I mean, yeah, that $50 million buyout, yeah, it's a lot of money, but you know what? Sometimes you should eat your own mistakes, right? If you make some mistakes in the kitchen, sometimes your punishment is to eat it. If you undercook chicken or if you undercook meat or potatoes, eat it. UCLA did not hold a lead at any point in their first 4 games of the season. Also, he has the nerve to say on Monday's presser, right? Every Monday, James Franklin has a press conference where he recaps the last game and he previews the next game. And what does he say? Oh man, injuries and travel is factors in our team's performance. And he's citing that they had to travel to, I'm sorry, wrong. These were not uncharacteristic mistakes that you made in just one game. You've been making these mistakes in every game all season long, and it finally caught up to them. He plays the blame game. Also, in quotes, we obviously didn't handle last week's loss well. Obviously, way to throw your team under the bus. Now you lost the locker room, Mr. Franklin. Safe to say your face won't be going on a $100 bill one day. Their coordinators are the highest paid coordinators in the history of college football. We talked about Knowles before getting $3 million. Their OC is getting over $2 million. This is officially the beginning of the end for James Franklin. I don't care what his buyout is. Every position on this team should be evaluated, including quarterback, including the 2-star running backs. Every position should be evaluated. You might as well have started the scout team if you're going to lose to UCLA. James Franklin, do you hear me?
Oh, man. So a couple tweets that I saw. One was like, we just got out coached by a team with no coaches. Hilarious. Another one, UCLA interim head coach Tim Skipper is now tied with James Franklin with one career top 10 win against a Big Ten opponent. Think about that. Like, come on, dude.
Skipped his way past you.
He skipped his way right past you. All right, so let's talk about Florida and Texas really quick because it'll segue us into our segment. Texas, the preseason number 1 overall ranked team in the country, is now also 3-2. They have not beat a Power 4 opponent as well. They had the Heisman favorite coming into the year, which didn't make sense. He played 3 games last year. You hadn't really seen this kid. They can't run the ball. They just cannot. Would they have 50 yards on the ground against Florida? The offensive line is bad. This defense forever was, been talked about and hyped up as a bunch of elite pass rushers. Where are they at? Because they just gave up 39 points to Florida. Florida, who we have shit on the show just about every week. Noah knows it more than anybody, but I've seen, speaking of memes, like about USF fans being talking about like going into the swamp, and because what did he say? Not a lot of people go in there and win, and then USF was like, well, we just did like 2 weeks ago. But no, I'll start with you on this one. This isn't a situation where you can necessarily point and laugh at Florida, so I know you don't love that, but talk to me about Texas. What went wrong in this game? What's going wrong for them this year? And is this a win that could catapult Florida up and kind of put them on a run, or did they just run into a shitty Texas team?
Oh man. First of all, no, Florida still sucks. Don't don't get it twisted. Florida is not good. All right. I'm sorry, they're just not. But I will give them credit for this game. They showed up and Texas didn't. You asked what went wrong for Texas, Andy. I think a harder question to ask would be what went right, because absolutely nothing went right in this game. Man. First of all, they couldn't block whatsoever. 6 sacks for the Florida defense. They averaged 2 yards per carry. Uh, Arch Manning, 2 interceptions, barely above 50% completion percentage. And I just say this now, I'm not saying this to be a hater, right? But um, to everyone who was saying before the year that this guy's going to be the number 1 draft pick this year, can you please hand in your drug test to your employer? Because what the hell, man? Like, what were you looking at? Again, I feel bad for him in a way because it's just totally the last name, guys. He just gets so overhyped because of it. He's not ready yet. He's not even close. In fact, he just looked lost for big stretches in this game. And credit to DJ Lagway on the other side. Remember when he threw 5 interceptions against LSU a few weeks ago? He was getting hammered. I thought he played pretty well in this game. Almost 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, played 75%. Their running game was strong as well. Dallas Wilson, 6 receptions, 111 yards, 2 touchdowns. But man, Texas 3 for 11 on third down. You couldn't do better than 3 for 11. 10 penalties, 2 interceptions, like I mentioned before. Um, and by the way, Florida is a tough place to play. I know, I like to shit on them, but it's not exactly a place you can go and easily expect to win. But like you said, if a team like USF can go in there and get it done, you have absolutely no excuse. With all those, 4 and 5 star prospects you got splattered all over your roster, right? And I will say this as well. They were massively overrated as the number 1. I mean, last year they lost to Georgia twice. It wasn't like, they were so close. I think they were closer was it 2023? I think the year they lost in the semifinal to Washington. That team was way better than this one. They were way closer to a championship than this team or last year's was, in my opinion. And stuff like this shows it. I mean, you go on the road to Florida and you just lose. And to be honest, it's another one. I don't think this was ever even in doubt. That's the sad part. Texas had to score in the fourth quarter to make it a 1-possession game. Florida was up 10-0 after the first quarter, 19-7 at halftime. Florida always had this game under control. It wasn't like they had some hellacious comeback or, Texas choked. in the fourth quarter. They just never showed up whatsoever. Now Florida will be in for a reality check here. They go on the road at A&M this week. They're probably going to lose about 35-13. And then, but man, Texas, you're not even the best team in your state. How could you pretend you're the best team in the country?
Tom, quick thoughts about this one.
Yeah, I mean, look, Florida beat Texas. Even Georgia beat Texas twice last year. I mean, you look at this Texas team. Arch Manning did not look great. Again, you guys know me, and I know you guys were both in agreement with me because we're three. I'd like to say we're somewhat intelligent heads. No, we all knew there was no way Arch Manning was declaring for the 2026 NFL draft. 2027, more likely. If he continues to play at this rate, he has 3 years of eligibility. He has 2 more after this year. You may not see him until 2028 if this keeps up, fellas. The biggest issue with Texas, though, it's not Arch Manning. It is the play calling. Steve Sarkisian's offense has been unable to run the football all season long. Quintravion Wisner had 8 rushes for 11 yards. Yeah, he scored a touchdown, but, man, this looks like an old stat line from Ron No-Gain Dane back when he played for the New York Football Giants. You brought him in to get short yardage, and he couldn't do it. Quintravion Wisner basically played – I know he's not – played like he looked like a 240-pound yard back who can't get that 1 yard at the goal line. The Gators outrushed the Longhorns 159 to 52. Lagway did not look good, in my opinion, but he made more plays than Arch did when it came down to it, and that's because they were able to run the football. When you're able to run the football, that sets up your offense, right? That opens your playbook, and that is exactly what happened in this game. And I want to give the Gators defense some credit, too. Not only did they stop the run, right? Texas only had 52 yards on 26 attempts. That's 2 yards a clip. They had 6 sacks of Arch Manning. And Arch is a mobile quarterback, so they were able to confuse him, disguise him with these blitzes, and Manning was not able to pick them up in a timely manner. This definitely sparks more concern for Texas than it does praise for Florida. I think Florida goes back to reality next week, but Texas was overranked.
All right, so we're going to get into that a little bit here. So this is our segment. It's free Fallin, because that is what Texas and Penn State have done. They are out of the top 25, the preseason number 1 and number 2 teams. It took them 6 weeks to completely fall out of top 25. Think about that, guys. That's insane. It's the first time two preseason top 10 teams have fallen out of the top 25 since 1986. Both of these teams have appeared in the top 25 every week since, I believe for Texas, it was November of 22, and Penn State, it might have been September of 22. But either way, before we get into the preseason rankings talk, I want to talk about each of these teams specifically. Tom, you kind of already hit on this. Who is to blame for the slow start? Let's do both teams. For Texas, you kind of already gave your answer, Tom. You said it'd be Stark and the play calling. Mm-hmm. Is that the same answer for you for Penn State? Is this a James Franklin issue? Is this a Drew Aller issue? Is there something else you think is worse? Or, also a lot of the times it's not just one thing.
Right.
We can all acknowledge that it can be a combination, one big dumpster fire, like Noah said earlier. But in your mind, you think it's Stark in the play calling for Texas? What is the biggest thing holding Penn State back, in your opinion?
Yeah, look, with Penn State, I think it's the lack of attention to detail on the part of James Franklin. Look, I know we talk crap about Drew Aller. Let's be real here for a second. Would Drew Aller be as bad as he was if his head coach was not James Franklin? Probably not. That's why Cade Pribula got out of there, and look at him. He's succeeding in the SEC. I'm not saying Drew Aller can play in the SEC. I don't think he can. But this is a guy who would do wonders with better coaching. In fact, Drew Aller may have to stay another year if this keeps up. So I do think it's more the coaching. Franklin does not connect with some of his players well, and that's why there is little player leadership. It's a divided locker room. You think about this loss, the Oregon loss, all right, I'll give them that. but there's a clear lack of mental and physical preparation. We talked about how much the coordinators are getting paid. We won't get into that. Just overall being out coached, everything I mentioned before in the last segment about the press conference, the way he's citing blame. James Franklin refuses to take proper accountability sometimes. He throws it elsewhere. And he's been doing that for a very, very long time. So to answer your question, Andy, it is 100% James Franklin, and I am more concerned about Penn State than I am Texas. I think with Texas, it's a concern. 4 new starting offensive linemen. They have to win out to earn a seat at the table for the CFP. Penn State is done. You could stick a fork in them.
No, I'll start. I'll go down to you for the same question. Who do you think? What's the biggest issue Penn State is facing? What's the biggest issue that Texas is facing? Do you agree it's coaching? Is this on the each of the quarterbacks? Is this defense? The run game for Texas. What's the biggest thing for each of these teams for you?
I think I'm mostly with Tom on this one. I do think it's not always just one thing, right? It's always a combination. But I'd say the biggest thing for me, I'll start with Texas. I do think it is Steve Sarkisian. Now, I'm not saying I think he's a horrible coach or anything, but I have seen some really questionable play calling for him. And look, you can talk about, oh, Arch Manning isn't getting it done. It is his first year as a full-time start, and I will say this, when you have a team as talented as Texas is, you can't really use the excuse of just blaming on one player. They should have, for instance, they have the players talent-wise to beat Florida easily. If you don't do something like that, that's on coaching. They also, have had some defensive lapses. I mean, like I said, Lagway had one of his best games of the season in that one, and Texas had to score a touchdown in the fourth quarter to even make it look competitive. So I think overall, it's mostly on Sark. Again, I don't think he's bad. But we got to remember, guys, this is a guy that his first massive job was at USC. Remember what happened? He got fired because he wasn't good enough. He then left college football for years on end to go to the NFL, most notably with the Falcons. Came back, was I believe the OC for Alabama for a little bit, and then he finally got a coaching job again. But I mean, 4-5 career bowl record. I mean, it's not like this is a guy, we obviously it's easy to dump on James Franklin, but it's not like this is a guy that is captain clutch in big games either, I would say. Losing a game like this, lose to Ohio State, lose to Georgia twice last year. As for Penn State, I think the main thing is James Franklin because he's the common denominator, guys, of them coming short every year. However, it's not just him. I think when you hire a guy like Jim Knowles, who I thought did an amazing job at Ohio State, the fact their defense looks so unbelievably awful in that game against UCLA, I think is a symptom of the problem as well. Drew Hour again, not amazing by any means, but Penn State has had these struggles long before Drew Hour was ever there, and I think as long as James Franklin is there, they'll continue to have him after he's gone. So yes, I think overall it's mostly coaching, because again, even players not executing, that also falls on coaching, guys. It's not always just, the player being crap. It's always sometimes it's lack of preparation or whatever. How the hell do you give up a 40 plus or what was it, 37? I don't even remember how much points to UCLA. That's on coaching. You got to be better prepared than that, man. You cannot let Nico Yamaleava have 5 touchdowns on you. What are you doing? This guy, no disrespect to Nico, but this guy's been so bad this season. He's basically one of the biggest memes in all of college football. And he dropped a 5-piece right on top of James Franklin's Chrome Dome like it was nothing. I mean, come on, man.
5-piece on your head, little game, James. So I'll Tom hit on this at the end of his turn. So I want to ask you as well. He says Penn State's done. Stick a fork in him. Can Texas still make the college football playoff, in your opinion?
I think it's gonna be very tough for one main reason, and that's the fact they play Georgia. Again, we can joke about, Alabama owns Georgia, and that's correct. But against pretty much everyone else, guys, they usually do pretty well. And they don't just play Georgia. It's not like the rest of they play Oklahoma this week. Red River rivalry. I have Oklahoma winning that game. I think you guys probably would have Oklahoma favored as well. They played A&M the last week of the season, another top 5 team. They play Vanderbilt. Again, I would expect Texas to win that game, but it's not a game you could expect them to go in and just dominate. No, I think they're cooked as well, guys, because they lost a game they had no business losing. If they only had one loss, you'd say they'd have some margin of error. They could lose to a team like a Georgia or an A&M or whatever. As long as they only won one, and you'd expect maybe 10-2, they'd be fine. But they're at the stage of the season, guys. They can't lose another game. If they lose another game, the season is over. And they have 4 ranked teams as it stands the rest of the season, all within the top 23 and the top 10. They're both cooked, man.
I completely agree with you on this one. They're not making it easy on themselves. So at the preseason, Texas was plus 550 to win the championship. Penn State plus 650. Texas is now plus 1,800, and the Nittany Lions are plus 4,000. Penn State is plus 6,000 to make the postseason and minus 1,200 to miss it. That's a 92% chance the Nittany Lions are left out. Texas plus 230 to make the playoffs and minus 320 to miss it. So when Vegas is this heavily on you missing the playoff, it's not a good thing. But they played themselves into this situation. And we'll see if either of them are able to dig themselves out. I want to turn this conversation into something a little bit different. So they were the preseason number 1 and number 2. Texas barely edged out Penn State. 8 teams from the preseason poll have now dropped out after the start. So Penn State, Texas, Clemson, who was number 4, number 13, South Carolina, number 15, Florida, number 16, SMU, number 17, Kansas State, number 25, Boise State. Are we putting too much stock in these preseason rankings? Should we even have preseason rankings? They're kind of pointless. How are we properly evaluating any of these teams against each other if they have not played a football game? It's really tough. And I was big on the preseason rankings this year, by the way. My team was a top 10 preseason team. I was fucking all over it. Have we dropped? Yes. Completely out of the top 25? No. The haters of which, there are many, are sick. And big one in Champaign this week. Big Noon kickoff's back. But anyways, Noah, I want to start with you. How much stock do you put in the preseason rankings? Should they be discontinued? What do you think?
How much stock? Maybe like a little bit. I wouldn't say I pay a ton of attention to it. Look, like I said, guys, when I looked at the preseason rankings first time, my first thought was, how the fuck is Penn State ranked above Ohio State? I'm sorry, but and look, this is just me. I'm not saying everyone has to agree with this, but my philosophy with preseason rankings is, unless it's something like a 2020 LSU where you lose basically 75% of your roster, that was the only reason your team won the championship, the defending champ should always be ranked number 1 in my book, until they show a reason otherwise. Defending champ is Ohio State. They're number 1 so far this season, by far, by the way. So, I'm just saying. But past that, do I think they should be discontinued? I wouldn't say that. I still think it's good to have preseason rankings. Plus, it's tradition as well. However, I would say this. I put way more stock in the coaches poll than what some, freaking bean string journalist at the Associated Press think. I'm sorry, but the coaches poll wasn't perfect, but there are some things I see with it. I'm looking at the preseason polls, guys, that I think make more sense. So Texas was still number 1, but you have stuff like Ohio State was ranked higher than Penn State. Clemson was down to number 6 instead of number 4. Just scanning the rest of it. Florida was a bit lower. Ole Miss was higher than Florida, whereas Ole Miss was number 21 all the way in the AP. Overall, I think the coaches poll is better, but nothing is perfect. And I don't think it needs to be either because, like you said, Andy, it's impossible to evaluate teams, before they play. But I also think that's part of the excitement, right?
Right.
Everyone's a little bit unknown, and then you kind of get a feeling toward, about 2-3 weeks in the season, what everyone is. But also, I don't think it's important enough to get rid of either because all these polls become totally irrelevant anyway when the CFP poll drops. So, if it was something to where the CFP didn't exist and we had maybe the old BCS method or whatever, maybe you could make more of an argument for the preseason poll not being there. But because it doesn't really matter at the end of the season anyway, I don't think it's important enough to remove personally. But yes, people do absolutely pay too much attention to it. I mean, I'll see people when Georgia was ranked number 4. They were like, "Oh my God, why are we ranked below, Penn State or whatever?" I'm like, "Who cares, guys? We'll be ranked above them in 2 weeks when they lose to some good team anyway." I'm like, come on now.
Facts. Tom, what do you think? Is there too much stock being put in these preseason rankings? Do you think they're needed? Is it something that people would miss? Think we could get rid of it and be just fine? What do you think?
3 words: name, image, and likeness. That's why we have these. Do we need them? Yes, we do need them for publicity, marketing, and money. That's why college football needs the preseason rankings. Do I love the preseason rankings? No. What I want to do is the final season rankings. I want to compare that to the preseason rankings and see if these teams like Penn State and Texas do crawl back into the top 25. Obviously, they'll be nowhere near 1 and 2. They'll probably be in the 20s or late teens, mid to late teens, if that. But yeah, I don't see a purpose in paying too much weight into them. I like what Noah said about paying more attention to the coaches poll. But yeah, we put way too much stock into these. Every team has a different story every year. It's kind of like pro football, and I'll end on this here. Pro football has like at least 3 to 4 different playoff teams every year, right? Like you look at this year, you got the Jaguars who are hot. As an example, you have the Colts, and a lot of people base their rankings off of recency bias. Like I'm sure, not to single out the AFC South, but Houston was a popular pick to win that division again. But if you're smart, if you really think about it, that's not like the same teams aren't going to make the playoffs every single year. There's parity in the sport. And college, and I mention this because college is now becoming more like the pros, where there is more parity. Certain coaches, established college coaches prior to NIL, are having trouble adapting. North Carolina, way too overhyped. I know we'll talk about them later, but that's another team. Clemson, ACC, weak. That's why they're high, because they have a hot quarterback who was a Heisman finalist, and they have a head coach who's won a national championship before. Do they actually look at the 80-something guys that are on the roster and measure the X's and O's with that? No, they don't. And that's why the rankings are always wrong. If people actually had the time to sit there and calculate everything, we'd get better rankings. But the problem is all these news outlets, it is name, it is image, and it is likeness. 100%. That is why Penn State and Texas were 1 and 2, because people are thinking, oh, well, who's going to be in the top of the mock drafts next year? Well, if you don't have brain cells, they would have picked Arch Manning and Drew Aller. That's why we're getting hype around Fernando Mendoza right now when we know he's not a first-round talent. Not to go off on a rant there, but hopefully that makes sense, guys. I think you know the points I'm trying to get at.
Definitely. It's interesting you talk about Mendoza because Aller and Arch were 2 guys that projected to go at the top of the draft before the season, and they've now played their way out of the first round and maybe played their way out of this draft. We could be seeing another year of Drew Aller. Tom, you were talking about it. We could be seeing 3 more years of Arch if it really comes down to it. But you mentioned North Carolina, and that's a great segue for our second and final segment before we get into the 6-pack this week. And it's a term we've used on the show. It's truly a dumpster fire over at the University of North Carolina. The Bill Belichick experiment seems to be an absolute disaster. They are 2-3 against Power 4 opponents. I believe they're getting outscored 120-33. Just have not been in the stratosphere of any of these teams. Now there's a lot of stuff coming out. So Belichick announced earlier this year that they were going to be on a documentary on Hulu following their season. That has now been scrapped. Wonder why through 6 weeks. Apparently, before that they were going to be on Hard Knocks, featured on HBO's Hard Knocks, but Bill's 24-year-old girlfriend Jordan wanted to be too involved, and HBO pulled the plug. She was seen. She's on the field before the game, every week. She was seen chatting up the ACC commissioner, Jim Delaney, on Saturday, and people didn't necessarily love that. She, the way she controls Bill in these interviews, and she should be nowhere near a college football program. Bill's never coached in college before. They sold this to recruits as the 33rd NFL team, and they built this staff. The staff has his son, Steven, who's the defensive coordinator, who had been a defensive coordinator once before. I mean, he did at Washington. He did call plays and defensive plays in New England. Bill's other son is the safeties coach. They have two guys that are a quarterbacks coach, and somebody else had never held that position before. It's a lot of nepotism. You got Michael Lombardi, who's the GM, who people don't like. Apparently, he's not very nice. They brought in 70 new players. So between the transfer portal and high school, and parents of players that had stayed over from the Mac Brown years are reporting that there's a rift in the locker room. There's no communication from Bill and the coaches, that there's preferential treatment for the Belichick players against as opposed to the Mac Brown players. They just had a bye week. Apparently the coaches were not able to get a hold of Belichick at all. He just disappeared with Jordan. Now I saw a tweet that he might be negotiating a lesser buyout with North Carolina if he can find a coaching spot elsewhere or a spot in the media. Also, I saw a report that a former UNC staffer is suing the university, saying that Bill was hired illegally behind closed doors. They didn't announce it at an open meeting like they're supposed to. So also, he has a personal vendetta against the Crafts and the Patriots now. You're not allowed that all Patriot scouts are banned from the building. You're not allowed to post about them on social media. Drake May just had his best win as a pro, and he's North Carolina's best quarterback since I don't know how long. Oh, Mitchell Trubisky. Oh, God. And the North Carolina administration had to step in and be like, yes, we're going to tweet about our quarterback that got drafted number 2 overall. What was it, last year or the year before, or third overall? We're going to go ahead and post about that. So just what a joke. Tom, I'll start with you. Is it time for UNC to just cut their losses and let Belichick go, just part ways?
I'm not in the situation, so it's definitely tough for me to navigate through it. This is all hearsay of what we're seeing online and what's being posted on social media. It's only been 5 games. From a football perspective, they're 2-3. They got 3 losses to TCU, UCF, and Clemson. The Clemson loss was embarrassing in the fashion that they lost it. I'm not shocked that they lost that game. But the problem is they've lost by 25-plus points in each loss. This should be a high alert situation. I'm not going to say cut the cord just yet. Let's see how the next few weeks go. Because when you have somebody that's running a mess, this is going to sound really weird. He is the best person to run that mess, if that makes sense. If that person that creates the mess leaves and the mess gets picked up by another coach who is part of that mess, in my opinion, it's only going to get worse. Yeah, look, it's bad. His culture is a problem for the modern-day college football team. He is operating like it's the NFL. It is not the NFL. They're 128th in points per game out of 136 NCAA Division I FBS schools. There are 8 teams worse than UNC in scoring points per game. Awful. Sources are saying there's no culture. The root of the issue is that this style of operation and management does not work. I think the real issue is that Belichick is trying to navigate a sport that has changed so much over the past 5 years. You see even guys like Nick Saban struggling, Dabo Swinney struggling. These guys are viewed as powerhouse coaches. That's why Saban retired and left. He knew the game was changing, and he didn't want to deal with it. He didn't want to adapt. And I respect somebody like that. He's one of the best college football coaches of all time. That doesn't mean you can coach in the NIL era. It's just how it is. Yeah, the stuff with the Patriots is ridiculous. And he quoted this. He said, "It's clear I'm not welcome at their facility, so they're not welcome at ours." Again, there's two sides to every story, but it sounds like this 73-year-old man, who, by the way, originated from us, and I love and respect him for it as a coach. He's part of the reason why Tom Coughlin became a head coach. Um, I just I don't like where this is heading. He was never this bad, and when you have a 24-year-old girlfriend, you kind of stoop down to their level a little bit. I mean, he's almost 50 years older than this lady. That whole media stuff is, I mean, Andy, you talked about it, so I won't get too much into it, but that's a whole disaster in itself. She's way too involved, too many chefs at the table there. Displaying inappropriate pregame behavior. Yeah, I'm seeing that. I'm sure you guys are too. The Drake May stuff was ridiculous. But ultimately speaking, he is one of the best coaches that pro football has had to offer. You can argue what you want. It was more Brady than him. But at this juncture, you need to let this season play out with Bill Belichick as the head coach. They are 2-3 right now. They are following a roster overhaul, roster makeup. There is going to be issues. Let the season play out and see where they're at. However, due to all the outside factors, his name, who he is, how he operates like it's 1852, this should be a high alert situation. I'm not cutting the cord just yet. The jury is still out from my perspective on him as the UNC head coach from a football perspective, guys, not including the girlfriend here in this. This is Belichick solely.
No, are you ready to pull the plug on this if you're UNC, or are you showing some patience like Tom is?
Okay. First, I'll say no. I don't think they should fire him just yet. They invested way too much in him. He, like Tom said, completely overhauled the roster. Which, yes, you can say that's part of the reason they're struggling. That's also his fault as well, by the way. If you overhaul the roster and it doesn't work, that's on you as the head coach. But I will say this. First of all, I said it when it happened, and I'll still say it today. I thought they made a mistake when they fired Mac Brown. I don't think he was that bad last season. He had 4 winning seasons for UNC in his second stint and only 1 losing season. However, if you were going to fire Mac Brown, I could understand why, because like Tom said, these older coaches, they're not with this NIL era. He mentioned Nick Saban. Nick Saban literally said it when he retired. The main reason he retired was because he felt he was above having to beg some 18-year-old kid to come to play for his program and basically have to bribe them to play for him. And I understand that perspective. However, that is the way college football is going. So if you were going to get rid of an old fashioned head coach like Mac Brown, it would have made sense to bring in a younger guy. However, what they did instead was they brought in a guy who's only 1 year younger than Mac Brown, has absolutely no experience whatsoever coaching in college. And not only that, it's not like they hired some, guy that you think, oh, he could definitely adapt to, changing circumstances. They hired literally one of the most crotchety old man coaches to ever coach football in history, guys. To say, oh yeah, let's just go in here and coach these 19 and 20-year-old guys who are, definitely, like this is literally like I never thought this made sense from the start, guys. And look, I'm gonna try and keep this as football-related as possible, guys. But I have to say this. Some of the stuff I see with this, it makes me feel like it's the Bill Belichick reality TV show rather than the 2025 North Carolina football team. This stuff with the girlfriend, and I hate bringing her up because I think she's very young and impressionable person. I think, she has this spotlight on her she's never really had before. And that's going to make someone react, in certain ways. But Bill, you gotta man up. Like, what is this stuff like basically requiring your girlfriend to have to be on the sideline? What is this thing I saw where she literally is in the ACC commissioner's face arguing with him about some crap she respectfully doesn't know anything about? It's not like she's a savant football mind or whatever that knows what's best for college football or the ACC. What are you doing? All right. Like, what is going on here? And the stuff with the Patriots. But look, Bill, the reason the Patriots let you go wasn't because they have some hardcore vendetta against you. It's because you went 4 and fucking 13 your last year with the Patriots, which usually gets most coaches fired But respect to you, you did enough with the Patriots to where they were willing to say that we mutually part ways with you to show enough respect to give you that. Um, and you want to know why no one hired you after you were fired, by the way? It's because they knew that your time was done, as it happens with everyone. I'll tell you what, guys, the only thing I could think could save UNC's season down the stretch is if they go in the transfer portal and get Bomb Trady to come in and quarterback for that team, because there's no other way that this team is recovering, man. I think he's burned too many bridges. He's stubborn, which can be a good thing as a coach, but a lot of times it can be a bad thing. And it's not the fact that they're losing games, guys, that I think is the biggest red flag. It's the way they're losing these games. They've gotten blown out 34 points, 25, 28. I mean, he is so stubborn that they were down 38-10 against Clemson. There's 1 second left in the game. What does this guy do? He calls a timeout. He calls a timeout. Oh, I tell you what, guys, that extra play that we're down 28, that'll make a big difference the rest of our season. Like, are you serious? Honestly, I feel that's more embarrassing than anything. But yeah, man, I mean, this is just like total disaster. Reality TV show stuff. Like, I'm gonna be honest. I'm really sad that document series got canceled. That would have been absolute cinema to watch a train wreck like that on on TV.
The production company should release it still. They should find somebody else besides Hulu. Be like, yo, I
Yeah,
saw somebody on Twitter be like, I'd pay $100 to watch this. Like,
yeah.
it's Real Housewives of Chapel Hill, apparently, with Jordan leading the charge there. But I mean, Bill says he thinks that they're doing the right things. They're just not executing. They got to get better. But I mean,
Mm,
they're essentially a Sun Belt roster in the ACC. Man, they're brutal. Literally being a UNC fan right now is the dog sitting at the table while the house is on fire. That this is fine meme. That is exactly
mm,
what it is. I don't know if you guys saw it, but they cut to an interview of a UNC student during the Clemson UNC game, and she was like, "I was at the TCU game, and honestly, that was might have been the lowest moment of my time at university here, and I failed midterms, so that's saying something." It's like, Jesus Christ. So yeah, not great in Chapel Hill. Let's go to our 6-pack. We're now talking week 7 and previewing the biggest games. We're starting out with a Friday night matchup, a G5 matchup that could very well come down and be a deciding factor for that G5 team that makes the college football playoff. Number 24 USF is going to North Texas Friday at 6:30 on ESPN2. If you don't have anything to do Friday night, this is one that you should be watching. The over under to this game is 66.5. We're expecting some points. Byron Brown and Nestamaker, I believe is his name, for the Mean Green, two quarterbacks that have had phenomenal seasons to this point. Tom, I'll start with you on this one. A big one for our G5 brethren. What do you think?
I mean, you guys know I pushed hard for this game to be on the card this week because, I mean, I think these are two really good football teams, and I think you guys agree. Friday Night Lights, Byron Brown has been awesome this season. He's a dual threat. He's slippery. He's got good receivers in Chaz Nimrod and Kashawn Singleton. Those guys are both big play threats at the X and the Z. And then defensively, you got Mac Harris and Jalen Schuler, two sure-handed tackling linebackers that contained a mobile DJ Lagway earlier this season. I thought they were really good. Even against Miami, I mean, they made some decent plays. They were just severely outmatched in that game. And then Jarvis Lee and James Chenault in that secondary. Those two, again, Mestamaker is going to be really, really challenged here. This is the first real test for North Texas. USF has had multiple this season. And I believe that Miami game was on the road, if I remember correctly. So, yeah. Actually, Florida was on the road too. Both of those games were on the road. So, I mean, they're battle tested. And when you look at North Texas, those Mean Green, man, Drew Mestamaker, no turnovers on the season. None. I know the quality of opponents aren't great, but this guy is really fun to watch. If you want to watch a football game this Friday night, I guarantee you both these teams could beat Penn State right now. Both these teams could do it. Mackenzie McGill, the second in the backfield, 4 touchdowns on the year. He's their option A. Option B is pretty good too. Caleb Hawkins, he's more of a red zone guy, 7 touchdowns. Both of those backs have over 300 yards. And what's so impressive, not only could they run it, they could throw it too. Miles Coleman, Wyatt Young, Cameron Donor, all 3 of those guys make plays in the receiving game. They're going to test those corners, Lee and Chenault. It'll be interesting to see who gets matched up against who. The offensive line moves like poetry. I mean, we saw it last week for North Texas. They really did a nice job. And then defensively, I really like their linebackers. Shane Witter is a good sideline to sideline. He's able to get underneath the blocks in the run game too. And then you got Trey Fields, who this is a guy who is a veteran. He's impressive. He's athletic, a little raw, but he knows what he's doing. And I think it'll be very, very interesting to see which one of these guys gets dealt with spying on Byron Brown, or if it's a collaborative effort. For North Texas to win this game, they're going to have to contain Brown's mobility. You want to make him stand tall in the pocket and deliver the football to his receivers. You don't want him out on his feet. That's where he's most dangerous. USF is favored by 1.5 last I checked, and I'm going to go with them here. They're back in the rankings at number 24. I think they win their 5th game of the season, knocking off North Texas on the road.
All right, give him the Bulls and South Florida over North Texas. Noah, what do you think about this one?
What a matchup this is. And by the way, can I just say, no college football elitism here, all right? This is a massive game in the American. Two teams with a combined record of 9-1. Now, I do agree with Tom's point. USF is clearly more battle-tested. Looking at North Texas' schedule, they haven't really played anyone this season. However, when they've been at home, they've been pretty solid. And can I just say, by the way, this Mestemaker guy, man, 11 touchdowns, no interception. You want to talk about a good ratio. That's getting it done. Byron Brown has been solid this season as well. But like Tom said, I think he's a guy, if you can try and limit his mobility, he's not a guy, I don't think he's a terrible passer, but he's not a guy that's going to win games with his passing ability. He's a guy that's going to win games because he is a dual threat. So that is the key for this Mean Green defense. And look, I'm just going to be blunt, guys. This is the biggest game of the season at this point for both of these teams. Now, I know South Florida had some massive games. We're talking conference implications. This is one of the 2 biggest games left this season they have. This game and the Memphis game, because Memphis is also 6-0 in the American. If they want to win the American, these are 2 games that they definitely need to try and win. And North Texas, this is probably the toughest opponent they have left. So you're going to see the best out of both these teams, in my opinion. But I'll just say this, right? The last time I picked against North Texas in a home game, they won 59-12 over my Cougars. So I'm not making that mistake again, all right? I'm taking this Mean Green. Denton, Texas buzzsaw is going to win this game. Give me the Mean Green. They're going to look like Mean Joe Green on defense in this one, 37-24.
Ooh, a 37-24 victory is the prediction from Noah Dibler.
Oh, by the way, they're going to be ranked higher than Penn State after this week. Book it.
I like it. I like it. A 6-0 team at the top of the American would be tough to keep out. Mestemaker, man, 1,247 yards, 11 touchdowns, no interceptions, like Tom said. He's up there with my boy Luke Altmaier as 2 of the only quarterbacks in the country that can say they have done so. I'm going to give North Texas a slight edge here because they're at home. This is the biggest game they've had in years. Give me the Mean Green. I think they get it done. So 2-1 there. Let's go on to our next game. Big noon kickoff is back in Champaign. Number 1 Ohio State coming to town to take on the number 17 Illini on Fox. This is Illinois' toughest game to this point. This is going to be a very big uphill battle. A lot of concerns on defense and being able to stop Julian Sayin and the Buckeyes. Just very, very potent passing attack. They can run the ball. They can hurt you in multiple ways. Defensively, they're going to get after you as well. One of the elite units in the country. So what has Luke done since that Indiana game? he has stepped up and made plays and looked really good. Against USC, he had 3 touchdowns, a passing, rushing, and a receiving touchdown. This last week against Purdue, he went out and threw for 300, I believe, 80 yards. His last 2 games, he's gone for over 300 plus. He's threw for several touchdowns this last week against Purdue. He's going to have to do it. I don't want to say he's going to have to be perfect, but you're going to have to be damn near perfect. But the thing for Illinois is you have nothing to lose. You're not favored in this game. It's the number 1 team in the country. Just go out and play ball. As long as we finish the game healthy, you're still going to have an opportunity. And let's say you do drop the game, you're 5-2. It's not the end of the world. Get healthy and go beat Washington. Then you go from there. There's still a path to 10 wins, 10-2, even if they do drop this game. Tom, I'll start with you in this one. Give me your analysis. Do my Illini stand any chance against the Buckeyes, in your opinion?
It's going to be tough, but they do. They do stand a chance to win this football game, and I'll stand firm on that. They have a chance. Julian Sayin has been awesome this year, though. That's why a lot of people are ranking him atop the Heisman chart right now. First-year starter. He's completed 80% of his passes, guys. 80%. And these aren't just dink and dunk plays. He's throwing the football down the field. He's looked really, really hot. He's only been sacked twice. The offensive line keeps him clean. 13 touchdowns to 3 picks. Bo Jackson has been a real solid Travion Henderson replacement, and Quinshon Judkins as well. He's done a solid job over the last few weeks, and they still have Mr. Reliable and Carnell Tate with 4 touchdown receptions. He can operate either at the Z or in the slot, and then your X and Jeremiah Smith, 6 touchdowns on the year. Illinois is going to have their hands full with him. That's the game plan, right? You want to contain those 2 receivers, and that's a massive challenge. So it really starts with guys like Yakish trying to get to Sayin. Yakish 4 sacks on the year, a couple forced fumbles. The Illini have 15 sacks as a team, 8 fumble recoveries as well. So I think causing some turnovers will be very, very key. And Illinois, man, back-to-back wins, USC, Purdue, not easy feats this year. Both those teams have impressed at times. And you got Luke Altmaier, turnover-free, like Andy said. Valentine, Fagan in the backfield, good backs. I'm looking at Hank Beatty, though. Who from Ohio State is going to, take him down? I'm not so sure. He is a problem. Colin Dixon and Justin Bowick are 2 guys that cannot be slept on either. And then specifically here for Ohio State, right? You have to protect Luke Altmaier. Caden Curry has 5 sacks for the Buckeyes. He's a problem. Caden McDonald as well with 3 up the middle. Really good for an interior defensive lineman. And then Caleb Downs, one of the best safeties in the nation, if not number 1. You really have to make sure that you don't turn the ball over in this game. The last time Illinois won in Champaign against the Buckeyes, sorry, I got to bring this up, October 12th, 1991.
Yep.
This game will happen on October 11th, 2025. So if the game was happening on October 12th, I might have picked Illinois, but it's not. It's happening one day earlier. Give me Ohio State, but Illinois covers this spread. Ohio State only wins by 7 to 10 points.
All right, 7 to 10 point win for the Buckeyes is the prediction. I'm so glad you brought up Hank Beatty. This kid needs to be getting more national recognition. He has over 750 all-purpose yards on the year. He has a punt return touchdown. He has a passing touchdown. He has a rushing touchdown. He has 2 receiving touchdowns, 32 catches for 569 yards to the air. Like, this kid needs more buzz than he's getting. He is one of the best playmakers, not just in the Big Ten, in the country. Shout out Rochester, Illinois, 217, stand up. And then Luke Altmaier, like you said, 12 touchdowns, 1,573 yards. One of the only quarterbacks in the country that can say he can do that. Khalil Valentine is sneakily turning into one of our better running backs. He leads the team in rushing yards. You're going to see a heavy dose of Caden Fagan. Aiden Lawfrey, since the injury, just must not be fully 100%, hasn't really gotten an opportunity to play. And then defensively, you said it, Gabe Yakis, and I'm really looking at Miles Scott on the back end, guys like Caleb Patterson, Sabor Kareem, Juice Clark. Like, somebody's going to have to step up and lock these guys down. The room for error is almost zero, but hey, you got nothing to lose. Like I said earlier, should be a beautiful day in Champaign. The old boy already told me what he thinks the final score of this one will be, but he has not told you guys yet. So, Noah, we'll go to you. What do you think? Ohio State, Illinois.
Four main keys to the game for me. Number one, the quarterback battle. Two of the most efficient quarterbacks in college football so far, saying completing 80.2% of his passes. I don't have the leaders up, but I'm going to guess that that's at least top two. The only other one I could think would be even close would be Carson Beck. And on the other side, Altmaier. No interceptions. I believe 12 touchdown passes so far this season. So it's going to come down, guys, to which team is able to get more pass rush, which team might be able to force a turnover in a tight game like this. Second key for me, and Andy already mentioned one of the keys, but I think it's going to come down to which team can better slow down the superstar wide receivers in this game. Hank Beatty for Illinois, Jeremiah Smith for Ohio State. You're never going to be able to stop guys like this, in my opinion, but which team is going to do a better job of limiting their influence? Third key for me as well. Illinois has to get this rushing attack going. They're 100th in the nation in rushing yards per game. This is not a team, guys, to where you want to be one-dimensional. If Illinois gets to a point where they have to keep passing over and over, these pass rushers are going to absolutely tee off on this offensive line, and poor Luke Altmaier is going to be in for a very long day. And fourth key for me is this Illinois defense has struggled at times this season, guys. They're 113th against the pass, 93rd overall. This Ohio State team has weapons all over at the running game, in the passing game as well. Their offensive line is pretty strong too. There's a reason they're the number one ranked team in the country. So, in my opinion, I hope I'm wrong because obviously I don't like Ohio State, but I think they have a bit too much. I don't think it'll be a blowout, as I joked with Andy. I do think it'll be tough to go on the road against Illinois, but Ohio State's a more complete team, so I will pick them to win. Spread, I don't think they'll quite cover the spread, but I could see them winning by like, I don't know, 10 to 13 points, something like that. And give me the under as well. I think this might be a bit more of a defensive game than people expect.
Oh, the under and a 10 to 13 point win for Noah. I will pick the Illini in this game because I won't pick against them on the show. But yeah, uphill battle. Go get it, boys. You got nothing to lose. We'll see what happens. Let's move on. A big one in the SEC. Number 8, Alabama is going to Columbia to take on number 14, Mizzou. This one's also 11 a.m. on ABC. We have a lot of good games going on at the same times this week, but I mean, that's how it is with college football, wall to wall, from, for me in the Central Time Zone, 11 to midnight a lot of these days. But our SEC guy, the old boy, will start with you. Bama and Mizzou, a team that you have talked about on the show multiple times, is one to watch out for. Do they have enough to clip the Tide here this weekend?
Well, look, 3.5 spread in favor of Alabama. I think that's the type of game you're going to see in this one, guys. I think it's going to be very tough. I think, like I said, the first show of the season, I said Missouri was my dark horse. I thought the fact they were unranked was a total joke. And so far, they're 5-0. However, I will say this, guys. You look at their schedule, they haven't really played anyone that tough. This is by far their toughest matchup of the season so far. However, they are at home, good old Memorial Stadium. And they've had a lot of superstars this season. Bo Pribilla, you guys mentioned him earlier when we were discussing the absolute dumpster fire over there in good old Penn State. He has looked really good this season. Another guy who's looked really good as well, Ahmad Hardy. 7 yards per carry this season, 9 touchdowns. Alabama is going to have to key in on him to try and make the Missouri offense one-dimensional. On the other side, I think key to the game for the Mizzou defense is limiting Ty Simpson, getting him uncomfortable with the pass rush. That is how Florida State was able to beat this Alabama team. If you let Ty Simpson sit back there, have all day to pick you apart, he will do so. He has massively improved as the season has gone along. Also, Jam Miller. You cannot have him have another game like he had against Vanderbilt. Again, that just opens up so much for their offense. Superstar wide receivers as well, and Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams. They will have to slow them down too. However, I will say this. Both defenses so far, guys, this season have been really good. Missouri is second in the FBS in yards allowed. They were first in rushing as well, which I think will be key against Jam Miller. On the other side, Alabama is just a solid, well-rounded team, offensively and defensively. I don't think they have any major holes. But this is Missouri's biggest test, guys. I mean, their offense and defense has been elite so far this season, but they haven't really played anybody. Can they keep it up so far? Unfortunately, I wish I could pick them, but Alabama in big games, man, I'm always going to give them a slight edge, and I think they are still a more talented team. Like I said, when I pick Missouri as my dark horse, I think they're going to be a solid 9-10 win team or whatever, and I've seen nothing to sway my opinion on that. But when it comes to teams like this, or games like this, excuse me, like I said with Vanderbilt last week, I think you just need a little bit of an extra edge in games like this, and I would give Alabama that extra edge in this one. So give me Alabama by a field goal.
Bama by a field goal is the pick. Tom, do you concur? Are you on the Tide as well, or do you think the Tigers could pull off an upset?
I think it's going to be interesting if Bama could stop the run in this game because Mizzou averages 292 rush yards on the ground, but Noah brought up something before. The quality of opponents have not been the best so far. So, yeah, Ahmad Hardy has 9 scores. Jamal Roberts and Marquise Roberts are really good too, but I think Bama defensively, you want to make Cade Pribula throw the football down the field and try to beat you that way because that's their strength, in my opinion. Keon Sabb and Bray Hubbard are 2 outstanding defenders in the secondary. This is the problem. Missouri has not beaten Alabama since 1975. Hate to say it, it's not changing here. While I do think certain guys from Missouri will have some good games, I just think Alabama's too tough to stop here on the road, especially coming off that win against Georgia. They're improving week by week. Ty Simpson's starting to get it. Tide win.
A Tide win for my 2 compatriots here. I'm going to go the other way. I like the Tigers at home. I like an upset. We saw Vandy play with Alabama for the majority of this game. That one was in Tuscaloosa. This one's in Columbia. You're going to have the crowd on your side. I think Bo Pribula has shown that he has all the tools to be a good quarterback. I am a little concerned, like you guys said, the strength of schedule is a problem, but you got to play Alabama either way. So, I mean, who you've played to this point doesn't matter. If you just have to go out there and execute. So give me the Tigers. I'm going to go for an upset in this one. Let's move on. Another huge game in the Big Ten, a top 10 matchup. This is the biggest, I would say one of the biggest tests for Kurt Cignetti so far at Indiana. Number 7, Indiana is going to Eugene to take on the Ducks. Dan Lanning and number 3, Oregon, 2:30 CBS. Noah, I want to start with you here. Oregon, Dan Lanning. Does Indiana stand a chance against these guys in Eugene?
They do. I think this is a game between 2 teams that will be in the college football playoff, maybe even comfortably, I would say. However, I would say this is Indiana's biggest test of the season. If you look at their schedule, guys, they have had 56-9, 73-0, and 63-10 cupcake victories before a close victory against Iowa in their last game, 20-15. So this going on the road to Oregon, guys, is a massive test for them. It's going to come down to a few things, in my opinion. Number one, you have an absolutely superstar quarterback matchup in this one. Dante Moore and Fernando Mendoza, between them, 30 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So the defenses in this game are going to have to absolutely lock in for this one. Uyunglele on defense for Oregon. I mean, good old Ukulele, that family, still going strong, or at least he's going strong. The other one was not so much, but yeah, I think the main thing for Oregon that makes them a contender compared to years past is they have defense now. They've always had offense. They've always had elite offense as long as I've been alive, basically. But this year, guys, they're ranked in the top 10 for both offense and defense. They already have granted, we can dump on Penn State all they want, but that was a big win for them in that one. I believe it was on the road as well for the whiteout. And they got it done, and they're always in control of that game, I felt. This is 2 teams, guys, that are just like really good all around. Indiana's another one. They're 5th in offense and 5th in defense. So when you look at this game on paper, I don't think there's any major glaring holes for either team. So once again, I think it comes down to the home field advantage, Autzen Stadium. I think it's going to give Oregon a slight edge in this one. I don't think it will be a blowout by any means. In fact, I think the 7.5 spread is probably a little bit too high. I think this is more like a 3 to 4 point game in this one. But with that slight edge, I'm going to give Dan Lanning and the Ducks at home a slight edge. Over under 55.5. I'm going to go over. I think this is going to be a bit higher scoring than people think, but especially with these quarterbacks. But I'm going to give Oregon the edge 31-27.
31-27, high scoring shootout is the prediction from Noah Dibler. Tommy Scavetta, Ducks, Hoosiers, talk to me.
Well, I'm going to disagree a little bit. I think Oregon does cover the spread, and I'll tell you why. Indiana has not won a road game against the top 10 opponents since 1987. They are 0-46 against top 5 teams on the road since 1987. Now that clarifies who I'm taking, but why do I think Oregon covers the spread? Here's why. The Ducks average 240 yards on the ground per game, and their quality of opponents have been really, really good. Dante Moore is number 3 in the Heisman race right now, according to CBS Sports, behind the two we mentioned before, Sayin and Beck, and for good reason. He's only been sacked once, and he's only thrown 1 pick. He's really, really good in the pocket. He's good outside of the pocket, too. It's not common you see that at the college level, especially at this stage of his young career. 14 touchdown passes. They have 3 running backs, De'Aaron Hill and Jaden Lamar, who do most of the rushing, but then towards the red zone, it's Jordan Davison, who has less than 100 rushing yards, but 7 touchdowns on the year. He's very effective in that category. I don't think Indiana has an answer for that. I feel like Indiana, Mario Landino and Tyreek Tucker are going to have to get to Dante Moore. I don't know if they're going to be able to do it. He's going to be able to throw the ball down the field to guys like DeCorian Moore, Malik Benson, Kenyon Shadiq, who's rising as one of the top tight ends in the nation. Quickly, Gary Bryant Jr. as well. On the flip, Mendoza, yeah, he's been good, but he's not as good as Dante Moore, in my opinion. In big games, he's going to have to prove it. He leans on that 3-headed monster in the backfield, and Hemby, Black, and Martin. Those guys carry the load of that offense. Yeah, Surratt and Cooper Jr. each have 6 touchdowns, but I don't know how they're going to fare against this Oregon pass rush. I don't think they're going to be seeing as many looks in this game. You got Bryce Botcher, good linebacker. You got Matayo Ukulele, 4 sacks on the season. I'm sorry. And then Tuioti as well, a guy who's really shined. His pressure rate has not converted to sacks yet, but he has one of the best pressure rates in the nation, similar to Abdul Carter for Penn State a couple of years ago when he wasn't getting the sack production just yet. And the sacks will come. I think he gets one this game. And then Jerry Mixon with 2 picks. I think Mendoza throws a pick in this game. I have Oregon winning by 11.
11-point win for the Ducks. I am also taking Oregon. Indiana's going to have to prove it to me. That's crazy that I'm saying that after they whoop the shit out of my team. But they have to prove it to me on the road. Do I think they're a very good team? Yeah. If they can get pressure to Dante Moore, watch out. But Oregon has so many good running backs. Dyer Hill is from Belleville, Illinois, which Southern Illinois. Went to a little tiny Althoff Catholic last year and just ran through the IHSA. They're either 1A or 2A school. So it's cool to see him at Oregon now. But yeah, I just think the Ducks are going to be too much. Defensively, I'm really excited to see what Dan Lanning does to kind of throw Mendoza off and give them different looks. Hemby is a great running back for them, the Maryland transfer. He's going to have to get loose. And Cignetti's not going to back down. We know that. Like he's going to have this team ready to play. We'll see how the travel affects them, but give me Oregon, and I think they win by 8. All right, we'll go. We got 2 games left. We got to do the Red River Shootout. Number 6, Oklahoma, taking on Texas at 2:30 on ABC. Tom, I'll start with you on this one. We talked heavily about the Longhorns and their struggles on the show. Can they turn it around? Do they have a chance against Oklahoma in the rivalry game?
The big question is, does John Mateer play? Right now, I don't think he does. I think they're going to have to go with Hawkins, who should be ready to go. And if you remember, Hawkins started this game last year, and they lost 34-3 He's grown a lot since. He looked good against Kent State last week, 3 touchdown passes with 1 rushing. So, yeah, hopefully Mateer's hand holds out because I would really like to see him play in this game. That quarterback matchup would be awesome. Despite how much Arch has struggled this year, he's still a very good quarterback, in my opinion. He's going to get it right eventually. Torrey Blaylock on the ground for Oklahoma is going to have to make some headway against that Texas front. We'll see what happens there with that. They do have some good pass catchers, Jaron Kanik, Isaiah Sategna as well, Deion Burks. Those guys have been around now. And the Sooners defensively are really impressive. I think the defense will keep them in this game. 21 sacks as a team. The only problem is they've only forced 2 turnovers on defense. So that pressure is not equating into turnovers just yet, but it's worked because they haven't lost a game. They're 5-0. Taylor Wine, R. Mason Thomas, that helps seal that 1 win back towards the end of September. I'm forgetting the opponent for some reason. And Jaden Jackson as well. Might have been LSU. I forget. Anyway, Texas coming off a 29-21 win, a loss to Florida where Arch did not look great. This season, he's completing just 60% of his passes. They have had an inability to run the football. They have to get Jarrett Gibson involved. In my opinion, that's their better back at this point. That's coming from me. We know Livingstone, Wingo could make plays. Jack Endries, the tight end, has been solid, but he doesn't get the ball enough either. And here's the real key for me. The Longhorns do not get enough pressure on opposing quarterbacks. They only have 11 sacks. They have to do more, especially against some of the weaker opponents that they played. And you got guys on this defense. You have Anthony Hill Jr., who's a projected first-round pick. You got Michael Taffy, who had a pick last week at safety. Jelani McDonald, another guy who's impressed with 2 picks. They just have to find a way to get more pressure on the quarterback. I think they do in this game. And due to the question mark of John Mateer, I'm going to go with Texas in this one at home. Again, if Mateer was playing for sure, I would go with Oklahoma. But, man, just the way the game went last year, it's only been a year. I don't know if I see the script flipping. Texas is pissed off. I think they make the proper adjustments to win it.
Yes, Tommy is going with the Longhorns. This game is neutral site. It's at the Cotton Bowl in Dallas. I think Texas technically listed as the home team there. Noah, what do you think about this one? Do we see a bounce back from Texas? I think earlier you made a comment about this game, a little teaser that you liked Oklahoma. Are we sticking with that?
I do think this is a coin flip game, guys. First of all, I'm going to throw the records out the window. I know Texas has struggled, but this is each team's
Love it.
biggest rival. You cannot factor in too much. Obviously, it's not totally irrelevant, right? But with rivalries like this, it's a close game out of nowhere, no matter how each team has been playing. Other than last year, that was kind of an exception, right? Texas was really good last year. Oklahoma rebuilding. That is not the case this year. However, I think both these teams have question marks, particularly at the quarterback position. Like Tom already mentioned, John Mateer probably wouldn't play this game, even if he did. His injury, I think Tom was the one who mentioned this in the group chat that day, expected 4 to 6 week recovery time. He's only been out 2 weeks. So if he did play, he'd be very limited, but realistically, he's probably not going to play. It's going to be Hawkins, whose only start this season is against poor, lowly Kent State, where he did have 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. So this is an entirely different animal for him. However, on the other side, we mentioned earlier, Arch Manning has been struggling this season. What do you not want to see when you're struggling? How about the number 2 ranked team defensively in the country against both the pass and scoring wise? I mean, that is just absolutely incredible mark. However, I do think Texas also has an advantage defensively, which Tom already alluded to this, but Oklahoma does not get turnovers. And Oklahoma can turn the ball over defensively. You compare or offensively, excuse me. If you compare the turnover margins this season, guys, Oklahoma is -4. Texas is actually a +3. So that is an advantage they have. In my opinion, if Texas has any chance in this game, they need to get some turnovers on Hawkins. And Texas, for the most part, defensively, they weren't great last week, but for the most part, they're still respectable. I mean, they're 5th in scoring in the country. So I think this is going to be a low scoring game. Over under around 43.5, I think is about spot on, something like that. However, overall, I think Texas is going to respond this game. This isn't going to be a blowout. But even with a backup quarterback, I just feel right now that I have more faith in Oklahoma to win this game than Texas. I would not be surprised if Texas won if they had maybe the game of their season because it's a big rivalry game. But there's just so many question marks around Texas. The only real question mark after Oklahoma is their quarterback position. But yeah, I'm going to give Oklahoma a very slight edge in this one. Spread is -1.5. Give me the Sooners by 3 to win the Red River rivalry.
Sooners by 3 for Noah. I am going to go with the Longhorns, actually. I think that Arch has a bounce back day, and Texas gets a somewhat of a surprising win over number 6, Oklahoma. Our last game on the card is number 15, Michigan, going to Los Angeles to take on USC, 6:30 Central Time on NBC. Is Michigan able to control the ground game? Justin Haynes able to get loose. How does Bryce Underwood look? Noah, we'll start with you here. Wolverines or Trojans?
I think this is a big test for this Michigan defense, guys. USC so far this season is second with get this 565 yards per game. They score almost 50 points per game. But on the other side, Michigan defense has been pretty solid this season, especially against the rush. So I mean, this is a really tough game. I will say this: USC's last game was a close loss to Illinois, but it wasn't that close. Illinois basically tried to throw away that game at the end, pretty much. But for the most part, I think Illinois was the better team. Michigan, on the other hand, guys, yes, they did have that loss early in the season to Oklahoma, but since then, I think they've kind of bounced back. They had that road win against Nebraska, and last week they did beat Wisconsin, who obviously, aren't world beaters by any means, but I think they've kind of recovered from their slow start to the season. I think this game will be decided by the quarterbacks. Underwood, I think, is a question mark. I think he's got talent. I don't think he's garbage by any means, but he still is a freshman. He still has a ton of kinks to work out in his passing game. And this USC team is not a team you want to get into a shootout with because so far this season, Jaden Mayava, 11 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's averaging over 300 passing yards per game. The rushing attack is strong as well. Jordan is averaging like over 7 yards per carry. And my boy, Makai Lemon, averaging almost 120 receiving yards per game. Michigan defense is good, but they're going to be very tested in this game. It's also a home game for the Trojans at the Memorial Coliseum. I do think Michigan is looking much better than they were earlier in the season, but USC, I think, looks strong right now, especially offensively. I have more faith in the USC defense to hold the Michigan offense just because the questions I have with Underwood than the opposite matchup. So give me USC to win this one. Close game, -2.5 is the spread. I'm going to go USC by 4 points.
USC by 4 for Noah. It will be a big factor here. Can the Michigan secondary hang with the likes of Makai Lemon and the receiving corps for the Trojans? Tom, who do you like, Wolverines or USC?
Yeah, look, tough game on the road for a freshman quarterback who's averaging around 200 passing yards per game. Not many touchdowns to show. They're more of a ground and pound team. And Michigan pushing for Justin Haynes to be a Heisman hopeful. So far this season, 654 rushing yards and 8 touchdowns. Their backup is pretty good too in Jordan Marshall. So their identity is run it through your mouth and beat you that way. They have a capable receiver in Donovan McCulley, but the run game is their bread and butter. They have good backers in Cole Sullivan and Jashawn Barham. Sullivan has a knack for causing turnovers. Barham has 3 sacks. I like Derek Moore as well going up against that USC left tackle. The Trojans will be a challenge offensively to stop because they average over 550 yards of offense per game, 227 on the ground, 338 through the air. Their offense averages 48.5 points per game. Jaden Mayava has been awesome, only sacked 3 times, 4 rushing touchdowns on top of 11 passing. Noah mentioned Makai Lemon. Yeah, I like him too. And Waymon Jordan averaging 7 yards on the ground with those 5 scores. He's been a problem. Defensively too, that USC's defense is not awful. Like last year and the year before, It was horrifying, awful. It's actually like somewhat respectable this year. It's not good, but it's definitely improved. I think it's a step above awful now, if that's putting it nicely. Um, and they kind of have to be because they're not in the Pac-12 anymore. They're in the Big Ten now, a conference that actually plays defense. And if you're going to be competitive in it, you have to play defense. Ask Andy Hopper. So with that being said, I think USC keeps it close. They're favored by 2.5. Last year when these teams played, Michigan caught me off guard and surprised me. I don't want to get caught with my pants down again. I'm picking Michigan to win this outright by 3 to 4 points.
Tom likes the Wolverines, and I think the biggest thing for me, I think if Michigan can control the time of possession and run the ball, they want to run the ball, they win. But if you get into a shootout and you let USC hang around, you let Miami start throwing the ball around, you're going to be in trouble. Lincoln Riley's still talking about the Illinois loss, by the way, like 9 days later, dude. Get the fuck over it. We beat you. You lost. But I'm going to take the Trojans. I want to take USC here. I think they pull off a little bit of an upset win and take out the Wolverines. I think their offense might be a little too much. I think Michigan's going to want to ugly up the game and run the ball. But give me USC in this one. So that's our 6-pack. Just missing it, folks. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this one. UMass and Kent State. UMass has lost 16 straight games against FBS opponents. Their last win against an FBS team was October 2023. Kent State has lost 26 straight to FBS opponents. Last win, November 2022. This Saturday, stoppable force meets a movable object in the MAC. You said it earlier. No, we're not a college football elitist show. We gotta mention the little guys too. This one might be a 0-0 tie until 7 overtimes. We'll see what happens there. But throw the records out when these two get together for sure, just like Texas and Oklahoma. But let's go ahead and lock it up, boys. Give me your locks of the week. Tom, I'll start with you. You still have the best record. I believe you're 5-1 to this point. What is your lock this week?
Yeah, back in the winning column last week. This week, I know I've been poking fun at them a little bit throughout the course of the show, but there's a reason why I did it, Noah. I'm picking Georgia outright against Auburn. Just outright, no spreads. I'm keeping it very, very simple. I think Georgia is going to look really good on offense, unlike in their game against Alabama. Yeah, I know they looked good at times, but I think Georgia's going to dominate this game actually on the ground. I mean, I think Auburn's going to have trouble stopping them. Blake Shapen, it's been a little bit inconsistent at times. I just think Georgia is an SEC contender. In fact, I think they win the SEC again potentially this year based on how the next few weeks go. And this is a good tune-up game for them, and I want to see Gunnar Stockton play really well. Georgia wins outright.
I love it.
Taking Georgia as his lock of the week. We'll go down to our Georgia boy. You teased this one earlier. You said you had a good one for us, Noah. What is it?
Yeah, man, I am zeroed in on the most competitive conference in all of college football, guys. I got my eyes on what is this town called? It's just Bowling Green, Ohio. Man, I got the Toledo Rockets and the Bowling Green Falcons. Man, some big things to keep an eye on this game. First of all, former Notre Dame quarterback Drew Pine, 5 touchdowns, 5 interceptions in the last 2 games. He is going to be felled like a Christmas tree in this game, guys, by this raving Rockets defense. And Chip Trainum, former Ohio State running back, has come in. He has bought in this Toledo system, what they're preaching over there in Toledo, Ohio. Poor Falcons, man, they're going to get absolutely roasted by the exhaust from this Toledo Rockets buzzsaw team. Toledo by 17 points over the Falcons.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. How does Drew Pine still have any eligibility left? This dude needs to get on. Man. He needs to get on Indeed, bro. Fill out an application. For my lock of the week to get out of here, I'm back and forth between 2 of them, but I'm going to trust my gut and go with my first one because I know if I had one and I switch, the one I switch to will lose and my original one will win. So I'm going to go Missouri money line at home against Alabama. I'm going against the Tide. Usually doesn't work out for a lock, but dare to dream, boys. So give me Missouri money line. Everybody lock it up. That's our lock of the week. This has been our week 7 show of the Tailgate Committee. We thank you all for joining us. For Tom Scavetta and Noah Dibler, my name's Andy Hopper. We will see you next Thursday at 12 o'clock. We have a great slate of games. We'll be back here chopping it up, talking about all of them. Yeah, we will see you on the flip flop. This is the Tailgate Committee.